What is going on, everyone? Today I want to talk about how much content I'm expecting and hoping for to have in Black Ops 6 Zombies. With this video, I'm going to do a combination of what I want and also what's realistic to happen, because obviously I can sit here and say, I want 100 zombies maps in this game. Like, obviously, the more the better, but we have to be realistic. The developers are not going to be pushing out that many maps. So first of all, when it comes to the main round-based maps, I want at least 6. Now, I think that would be a totally fine amount just based on prior zombies experiences. Usually we get 5 to 6, somewhere in that range. And obviously with us having 2 maps on launch with Terminus as well as Liberty Falls, 4 maps throughout the DLC, that is pretty standard for a typical zombies game. And since we usually have these like 6 seasons for each of the Call of Duties over the past couple years, it'll probably be like 1 per season, then in just 2 of the seasons will be perhaps just some other zombies related content that isn't round based. And I think that would be perfectly fine, perfectly acceptable, assuming these maps are actually really good and have a lot of content in them, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But personally, I would like to even have up to 8. I think at least 6 is totally fine, but I think 8 is possible. We had 8 maps in Black Ops 4 and 1 round-based map per season. I think is possible. This game had 4 years of development time. I think it's definitely something they can do, but I'm just going to throw out 6 as the minimum amount, and then 8 is probably the maximum. If they go beyond that, that would be insane and really cool, but I'm definitely not going to be expecting that. In terms of the main round-based maps, main maps is in like the new ones, the ones that are full of new content, full of new experiences, new Easter eggs. I'm expecting 6 to 8. And I do think they should give us a couple of smaller survival maps. And this is something that we don't usually see a lot in zombies, unfortunately, but I really think they should. Just either take cutout sections of these existing main new maps and throw them into round-based, or perhaps make, completely new maps, or take some multiplayer maps and turn them into round-based maps. I have no idea, but just give us a couple other fun little survival maps that are just separate things that don't have Easter eggs, just for people who like those types of maps, and also just a way to give us more content to play with. Because honestly, although I much prefer, Easter egg heavy maps, I might jump into these maps every now and then just to do stuff like camo grinding or leveling up your weapons. And then when it comes to other game modes, I definitely think Outbreak is probably going to happen some sort of open world mode. I've talked about it before. I don't want to see any open world zombies modes in this game. I feel like the fact that we just got a full year of open world zombies in Modern Warfare 3, I don't see the point of doing a whole nother one for Black Ops 6. Maybe they could hold off and do one for Black Ops 7 instead, or do some sort of an open world zombies mode that's free to play, that's tied to Warzone. I have no idea. I just don't want Treyarch to put a bunch of time and effort into Outbreak, because if we had a whole season and the only content was for Outbreak, I feel like it just wouldn't be that satisfying for me as a fan of round-based zombies. So I don't really want to see it, but am I expecting it? Probably. And if they do it, hopefully it's very similar to Cold War's Outbreak, but introduces some of the Modern Warfare Zombies elements as well. I think stuff like exfilling with different items and coming back with it. I think that's an interesting concept, and I wouldn't mind seeing that again if it's done better and it doesn't have a time limit, for example. Like, there's certain things that they need to take from Cold War's Outbreak and make that work into the mode, because I think you could definitely come up with a much better version of open world zombies with given the right amount of development time and the right amount of ideas put into it. So if we do see it, hopefully it's good, but I don't want to see too much development time put into it. Unless, of course, it's a different studio making it. If it's a different studio making it, they can develop it as long as they want. Like, I just don't want Treyarch to take away time from round-based. That's pretty much all I'm trying to say. And then Onslaught is definitely returning. I would be shocked if it didn't. I was honestly shocked it didn't come back into Modern Warfare 3 Zombies. I thought for sure we were going to see it, especially with all the zombie modes and multiplayer. I was like, oh, they're definitely going to throw an Onslaught in that game, and they still haven't done it, so maybe they won't. But Black Ops 6 is definitely going to have some sort of Onslaught mode. And I will say, I do hope they kind of rethink how Onslaught is actually handled, because I like Onslaught, it's totally fun, but at the same time, I do think it's basically just a round-based survival experience, just with less content. There's less choices for the player. There's no mystery box. There's no, direct perk purchases that you can make. You just get everything kind of randomly. And why not just take these multiplayer maps, have the zombies spawn in them all the same way, but make it more like traditional round-based, where there's rounds, not like the surges or whatever they call it in Onslaught. Just have actual rounds, and then have a mystery box and a pack-a-punch machine and all that stuff, and you can just kind of mess around with all the stuff on the map there. No Easter eggs, none of that stuff. And so basically you could just take every single multiplayer map and turn them into a survival map, essentially, kind of like Nuketown from Black Ops 2, which kind of goes over what I was talking about before, how I think this game should have a lot of different survival maps that are just kind of like smaller, just meant for jumping on and having some fun for a little bit, not really taking it too seriously. That would be perfect to throw in all the multiplayer maps in there. You don't even have to make new maps for that. You could just throw in the multiplayer maps, let us play round-based zombies on it, and boom, we're good to go. Like, that would be perfect, and I think that would work best for the Onslaught mode in this game. And if they want to do a mode that's more like Onslaught as well, they can certainly do that. I don't think that would take too much development time. It would just be an additional way to play those maps. And then Dead Ops Arcade 4. Is this actually going to happen in Black Ops 6? Personally, I hope so. There's been a lot of people online saying they don't think there's going to be a Dead Ops Arcade because Treyarch usually has this pattern where every other Black Ops game they include a Dead Ops, because obviously they did one for Black Ops 1, but they didn't do it for Black Ops 2. Then they did it for Black Ops 3, but they didn't do it for Black Ops 4. And then they did it for Cold War. So people think, oh, well, it's definitely not going to be Black Ops 6 then. It'll probably just be in Black Ops 7. But here's the thing. That's not like a distinct pattern that they like forced. That wasn't some sort of a rule that Treyarch was like, okay, we're only going to do one every other Black Ops game. That wasn't like a decision they made. It was more so just the natural coincidence of how long it took to develop a Dead Ops Arcade mode. It just so happened to be that they couldn't get one out for every Black Ops game. I've actually had this theory for quite some time that the Black Ops Cold War Dead Ops Arcade 3 was actually originally planned for Black Ops 4. This isn't confirmed or anything, it's just speculation. Because why does Dead Ops Arcade 3 include all of this Black Ops 4 assets? Like, it includes all the bosses from Black Ops 4, there's the Marauders from 9, there's even the 9 Elephant, there's all the stuff from Black Ops 4. That makes me think it might have been planned for Black Ops 4 and they just kind of moved the assets over to Cold War because they realized it might as well just do it for Cold War instead. So I've always had that theory. I'm not sure if that's actually true or not, but I think it's definitely possible we'll get Dead Ops Arcade 4 this year. This game's had 4 years of development time, obviously a lot longer than any other Zombies title, and Treyarch has made 2 Zombies titles in between Black Ops Cold War and Black Ops 6. So it's not like it's, a typical sort of situation that Treyarch is used to. So I don't think that pattern of it being every other Black Ops game necessarily has to continue here. And David King, who is the creator of Dead Ops Arcade, has been tweeting quite a bit about Black Ops 6. Now, he has worked on games that doesn't even include Dead Ops Arcade, so obviously he does more than just Dead Ops Arcade, but I think there is a high potential and high chance that we will see it in this game, and I personally hope so because Dead Ops Arcade is so much fun. As for other game modes, I just made a video on this really recently talking about competitive zombies and that they should include more competitive zombie modes. I would love to see a PvP type mode, kind of like Grief, but more like Zombie Blood Rush from Black Ops 3's mod tools. That would be fantastic to have as a separate side mode that you can play on all the maps and just kind of fight other players and just survive against the zombies and try to survive longer than the other players. Basically, if you've never heard of Zombie Blood Rush, go check out that video because I talk a lot about it in there. And yeah, that would be amazing. They could also do modes like Gun Game, just stuff that you could just put on the round-based maps itself. I think when there's separate game modes, they should try to do as many game modes that are on the round-based maps itself, rather than trying to do all these different modes where you have to find other maps from like multiplayer and stuff, like what they did with Outbreak and Onslaught. I like Onslaught, like I said, I do want to see it in this game. But I think utilizing the actual main maps itself as much as possible for separate modes should be their main priority. And the most important conversation when it comes to the amount of content in this game is about the actual amount of content on the maps itself. This is the thing that I think a lot of people forget about when they're talking about the quantity of content in a video game, especially for Call of Duty Zombies. The amount of maps is just one thing, right? I don't care if there's 14 maps in the game. If all 14 of the maps don't have much content on them, it doesn't matter to me. I would much rather have 4 incredibly detailed, incredibly high quality zombies experience with tons of new assets, tons of new things than like 10 maps that are mostly reused assets, just a bunch of, lackluster content. There's not much to the maps. I would much rather have less if it ends up having more to it. And I've said this for years because every time I say that Black Ops 4, in my opinion, has the most amount of content out of any Zombies experience, everyone always says, oh, well, Black Ops 3 has 14 maps if you include Zombies Chronicles, which yes, 14 maps is more than 8 maps in Black Ops 4, but all 8 of those maps in Black Ops 4 have a lot of content. There's a lot of stuff on them. Maybe not as much on Classified, but the other 7 maps, there's plenty of content. When you look at Zombies Chronicles, most of those maps are, well, all the maps are just remasters, but most of them don't even have a lot of content on them themselves. They're, obviously smaller maps. Look at Nocturne Toten, look at Verrückt, look at Shinonuma. These are very small experiences that don't have a lot of content on them. So it's very different when comparing it to something like Black Ops 4. And Black Ops 4 to me has a lot of content on the map. So when it comes to content, obviously side quests and main quests is the most important thing to me. having a lot of side Easter eggs, a lot of things you can do on the map is key. You want players to feel overwhelmed. You want players to have so many different options, so many choices for how to go about their experience because it lasts longer. The map experience lasts longer. Stuff like Cold War Zombies just didn't work for me because there wasn't enough on the maps. There wasn't enough stuff to do. You look at the actual amount of side content on Cold War Zombies, you can do it within one game and then you're done. Like there's never any reason to do it again because the rewards are lackluster and the actual depth to these quests are lackluster. There's not much to it. But you go to a map like Dead of the Night in Black Ops 4. There's like 2 side quests alone that have more content than your typical Cold War Zombies Easter egg. So like, obviously it's going to give more replay value when there's all these things you can do on the map, and they actually give unique, interesting rewards that you can't get anywhere else in the game. And it's not just about side Easter eggs and main Easter eggs and all that. There's also, of course, just features. Like look at a map like Spaceland. There's tons of just map features like the arcade machines, the ticket system, the rides, all these little things you can mess around with and just play endlessly because there's so much stuff to mess around with. Even small things like on Carrier from Advanced Warfare, you have the Plinko machine where you can shoot grenades in it and then it gives you a certain amount of points. That's a very small feature, but it gives the map more personality and it's an extra thing to mess around with on the map. That is important. Unique things that also just add to the overall replayability of the map. And then obviously like bosses and perks and weapons, all that stuff is important too, but I think less important than the other stuff I talked about prior. Having a lot of content is so important, and to me, the amount of content on the maps is always going to be more important than the actual amount of maps in the game or the amount of modes. It more so matters about what is actually on the map itself. Hopefully Black Ops 6 knocks it out of the park in all of these aspects, or at least most of these aspects, and I guess we'll see this October. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I will see you guys all in my next one. Peace out.